everyone, welcome back to KC3D Sparks. Today we are going to be creating some bedrolls, one that is actually rolled up and one that is laid out. But I wanted to ask for your guys' opinions before I jumped into modeling. I had an idea for doing a series where instead of doing different models each week and doing like, tips and tricks and then modeling just whatever for what's convenient, instead I was thinking about doing complete whole rooms, and I'd really like to see if you guys would want to actually see that or just sticking with what I'm doing now. So basically, if I was to do a series, I would do a design of either, I don't know, a kitchen or a bedroom or whatever strikes your guys' fancy, and I would give you guys the design of what we're going for, and then each week uploading a video on modeling those pieces, and at the very end everything all together and how it fits and the proper sizes and printing it and all that fun stuff. So if you like that idea, please let me know in the comments, or if you don't like it, also still let me know in the comments. I appreciate any feedback, but I was curious if you guys would want to see more series related, like I could put together playlists and stuff of videos to do different rooms instead of just random models each week with different tips and tricks. So again, let me know what you think. So let's dive right in with the bedrolls for today. First things first, of course, like I always say, go to your scene tab, change your units to whichever you prefer to work in. And then I changed the scale of my grid to 1/4 of an inch since I'm working in inches. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use this default cube here. We're going to start with the rolled up version of the bedroll first. So for that, I will go ahead and set up the sizing for it. For the x-axis, we are going to go ahead and do 1 inch. Whoops. 1 inch. And then for the y-axis, we want to do about 1/2 inch, and same for the z-axis. Perfect. Probably make it a little bit smaller, but once the subdivision surface and everything gets added on, which we can do right now, it'll probably be a little bit more sizable for us. Go ahead and crank that up to 3. I'm going to hide the end menu since I don't need it anymore, and we're going to tab into edit mode. So one other thing we're going to do real quick is add in a loop, go into front view, deselect everything, grab those vertices and delete them. Why didn't that work? Oh, delete the vertices, and we're going to add a mirror modifier. So that way we can just focus on the 1/2 of it. So to get it looking more like a bedroll, we're going to go ahead and add in a loop here and bring it pretty close to the edge. And then what we want to do is go ahead and grab this outer loop, and we're going to size that pretty far down. About there, it looks good. And we're just going to line that up with this other line that we just added back in. From there, basically what we're doing is adding in the ripples of the layers of the roll. So real quick, I'm going to add in 2 loops here to give it a better shape. After we add those 2 edge loops, we'll go ahead, go to the side view, and we're going to add in 8 edge loops over here. Just hit escape so that way it lands right in the center. And then what we're doing is creating the ripples for the actual rolled up sleeping bag or bed mat, whichever you prefer to call it. So grab this one, and then we're going to go out every 3. So go ahead, grab this one, this, oh, not that, just those 3 rings there. And we're going to drag those back and make it a little bit dramatic so that way it prints out pretty good looking, like that. So then what we'll want to do is, it's kind of thin. We want to thicken up these rings so it's not just kind of like wavy ripples. We want to make it look like an actual blanket material. So I'm going to go back into wireframe view so I can see the edge loops a little bit easier. And I want to grab this one. We're doing every 3 again. And this one. And we're going to size those in to help thicken that up until we're almost kind of on that edge loop that we drew back. Maybe a little more, maybe even there. Looks pretty good, so it's much thicker. And what we can also do is grab this ring and this ring, I believe, and size them up to make the inside even thicker. Like that. Looks even better. Obviously, it's personal preference, so do whatever you think looks best for your bedroll. But I like that, so it gives it a nice little like cushy feeling. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to do is add in like a drawstring type. So it looks like it's tied up. So I'm going to go into the front view and we're going to go ahead and do a Control R, do 2 loops right in the center there. And then I'm actually, you know what, just going to go ahead and add another one there and size that up. There, again, personal preference. And then we're going to Shift E for those. So it looks like there's a rope here. And then what we will do, select all of them, and we are going to size in like that. So it looks like it's actually being cinched inward. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I will flatten out the bottom in a second. I'll probably do that in a moment. I want to add in 2 edge loops here and 2 edge loops here before I flatten out the bottom. So obviously that just made it kind of square. So what we'll have to do is grab the corner edge loops and size them in along the Z and Y axis to give it back that roundish feel. I kind of leave it a little bit more lumpy so that way it's not perfectly circular. It kind of gives it a little bit more character. And then what we can do for this bottom part is go back into wireframe view, grab these bottom ones and flatten them out. Shift E to make them sharp so that way it doesn't roll all over the table. And I'm actually going to widen it by the Y-axis a little bit just to give it a better base and draw it up like it's kind of sunk into the ground or something. Or squished into the ground, whichever you prefer. There we go. I like that. Oops, I forgot to turn clipping on. So we'll just have to grab these 2 vertices and pull them back over and bring that to the top. So that way we don't get any weird reaction there. Cool. So obviously there's other details that you could add to this. You could add on knots to the top, or you could add some like more strings coming off of the knot, drawstrings, or any kind of, you know, accessories that you want to. But for the printer that I have, if I added a knot here, it's just gonna look like there's extra filament and it's not gonna come out properly. So I'm not going to add that. I might even try to exaggerate the ropes a little bit more so that way I can make sure it is apparent. So obviously if you have a better printer, go right ahead if you want to add in some more details. But I know mine's not going to do it properly, so I'm just going to leave it as is and thicken those up a little bit. There we go. Nice. So I think my printer should do that pretty easily. I'll find out soon. Shoot. I bring these 2 back down and then we can move on to the flattened out bedroll. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide this for now. Obviously when I'm ready, I'll go ahead, I'm probably going to just duplicate it, apply the 2 modifiers, and then I'll resize it in millimeters to be printed. For now I'll hide it so that way we can focus on the other bedroll. So again, we will go ahead and start with a cube. I'm going to open up the transform menu by hitting N, and I'm going to rename this to bedroll flat. Okay. And so for the x-axis, obviously we want to go ahead and keep it at 1 inch. For the y-axis though, since it's laid out, I'm going to do about 2.5 inches. I don't want it any bigger, but we can, you know, work with the sizes in there. For the z-axis, I want it pretty thin, but it still, again, needs to be thick enough to print out and just not look like a flat piece of nothing on the table. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1/4 inch and test that out. Hopefully it's not too thick, but I think it should work for what I'm going for. Okay, so there is our basic shape. I'm going to go ahead and hide the end menu again and tab into edit mode. Same thing, we want to go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier, but I'm not going to mess with a mirror modifier since it's not necessary. I'm actually not going to be making it uniform anyway. First thing, to make it not look like a surfboard anymore, I'm going to add in 2 edge loops. So Control R, scroll up once, escape out. I'm going to size it along the y-axis and pull it up so it's a little bit more rectangular. You can of course play with these shapes. I know some bedrolls will have more of like a triangular bottom or more of a cocoon shape or anything like that. I'm just going for almost more of like, I guess, a sleeping bag type feel, but of course you can have fun with these shapes. So another thing I'll do real quick is add in 2 edge loops here and add in another one in between those, and we're going to draw them in a little bit and sharpen it so it looks like a seam, and we'll size those in along the z-axis to give it a little bit more dimension again. I think that looks pretty good. I might need to pull this back out just a teeny bit. Okay, that's good for now. So now what we want to do is set up our topology so that way I'm going to have it like there's a built-in pillow underneath, and I'm going to set it up where there's a line coming across here so it's like the blanket is tossed open. So I'm going to go ahead and go into top view, and what we'll do is we already have this nice line here. I'm going to add 2 across, size that along the x-axis. And I want, I think 2 or 3 more loops up here. I think that's a little bit too high for what I want. I'll bring that down like the flat, yeah, because I'll draw up some vertices later once we apply the subdivision surface modifier for the pillow. So I'll bring that down. Probably start the flap for the blanket down here, so I'll draw that down. Okay, let's just do that for now, and we're gonna go ahead and hit K to get our knife tool out. I'm going to do that vertex to here and there and just hit enter so we get that nice cut there. Grab that vertex, draw that up, make it a little bit more organic looking, and I'll need another loop down here so that way I can grab all of these faces. Actually, first I want to go ahead and draw this over. Perfect. Now all we have to do is hit E to extrude, and we'll draw that up to give it a little bit more depth for there. Pull that back, go into side view, maybe rotate that a little bit. Cool. Go ahead and grab those vertices, sharpen them. Probably have to sharpen here as well. Give that a nice crisp line. Sharpen here. Since it's being folded over, they'd be separate anyway. And we'll probably need to sharpen here as well, but still look like it's attached there. So I might actually draw that one down a little bit. Perfect. And I'll probably bring that up just a bit once I attach or add on the subdivision surface modifier. Cool, so there's our basic shape. I'm going to tab out of that, Shift D so I get a duplicate, hide the first one, and I'm going to apply the subdivision surface modifier now. So now we can go back in to edit mode and add in more of our detail. Before I do that, I'll go down to our proportional editing menu and do connected. What that means is, if you haven't seen that one used before, basically if I grab a vertice and pull up, there's a ring that appears that will proportionally edit either sizing or rotations, or however you're grabbing the vertice, it'll affect it in that circle. So just scrolling up and down makes it move. So obviously I want it kind of small, but oops, I will go ahead and do it kind of like in a pillow shape. So let me go ahead and border select where I want my pillow. That. And it's not perfect. Like I said, it's going to be like underneath of where I have underneath of the blanket, like it's a sewn in pillow type thing. Bring it up a little bit first. And then I'm going to deselect a few rows and pull up the top more. Like that. And then I can grab this, kind of like press it in a little bit. Okay, I like that for the pillow. Probably could be more exaggerated, but I want to test print it first, see how bumpy it comes out, and then I can go from there. Maybe do that. Bring that bump up. And I want to mess up the blanket some too, so I want it to make it look like, you know, there were feet in here, so this would probably be all brought up a little bit. Kind of press down in the center. And I'm just kind of having fun with this. Obviously, you don't have to do any of this if you don't want to. Or I've also seen where people have added on weapons and shields to the beds as well, kind of making it more like their characters. But for me, I'm going to be using this kind of in a dungeon setting, so I need them somewhat generic. So obviously, if you're going to be using them for more of a campfire setting where they're doing long rests or anything like that, you could definitely personalize these a lot more. But since this is, like I said, for me, I'm just going to have them maybe in a dungeon or a jail cell or something. It needs to be pretty basic. So the other thing about proportional editing is I have to be wary of the bottom and make sure that it does stay flat. So at the very end, once I'm done doing all this, I'll probably go ahead and add in or go back and size the bottom along the z-axis to make sure I didn't do anything crazy. So pretty basic. I'm gonna go into side view and take care of the bottom. Oh, make sure you turn off proportional editing first. Very helpful. And then I'm just gonna draw that up to there. Perfect. Now I have a nice flat bottom for my miniature. And there we go. I've also seen it where people have the actual roll part as a pillow, so you could try and combine these two instead of doing a separate pillow, but I like them kind of like this. I think it looks kind of neat, or I could have them next to each other, kind of like that might be cool. Anyway, like I said, personal preference. Let me know how you guys like to do your bedrolls. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to leave me any feedback if you wanted to go ahead and have me start doing more of a series. That would be awesome. Or if you want me to just keep doing these quick mini tutorials with tips and tricks for Blender, that would be awesome. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate any other requests. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.